You're now live. Oh, are we live?
Yes.
What?
Yeah, we're live.
Hello out there in internet land. We are coming at you live here from Relativity School. This is our pilot presentation of our first live chat with one of our staff and or faculty members, where we encourage you, our audience, to write in any questions you have. Today is Halloween, you guys. OMG. Yes. Hence the weirdo. Mm-hmm. And the weirdo. Really quick intros. This is Terrence Johnson, our social media coordinator. He's incredible. This is Dr. Will Linn, our general education director. Save us all. And I'm Katie Northlake, and I'm a high school development specialist here at Relativity School. Our costumes are, Terrence, what are you?
I am a Slytherin student.
I'm the microcosmic man.
Oh my gosh. And I'm a unicorn. Yay! So hi guys. We love to see you, and this is sort of our fireside chat. And because it's Halloween, and we actually have Dr. Will Linn. Dr. Will Linn is our general education director. He has a PhD in mythological studies, so he's like crazy smart. And he knows everything there is to know about myth, and we are in today, All Hallows Eve, where we all eat candy, etc. And we talk about gore and myth and explore that. And here at Relativity School, where we're storytellers, we're talking about it today. So, any questions anybody has, please write in and be like, what's up? We only have Dr. Linn here for the next 30 minutes. So let's talk about Halloween stuff.
Yes.
Yeah?
Okay.
And he's ready because he's in his outfit. So we're just sort of talking about all things Halloween. Do you have a general what the heck is it? Can we start there and
Essence is a good place because there's so many different traditions all over the world that have come up to do so many different customs, rituals. Mm-hmm. That maybe the best place to start is what is in common to all of them. What do they share? Mm-hmm. What's the juice that's making them all do their thing? One of the big things that you'll see in these traditions all over the world is that this is a moment when the veil between the other world and this world is thin. Ooh. It's a time when things can come from the other world into this world, and it's a time when we're not safe from the other world.
That's
so
interesting.
Not only do most cultures have some notion of this, but this moment is normally connected to some moment in their own life cycle. So the harvest, the equinoxes, in the case of Samhain, the Celtic or the Gaelic tradition, it's when there's a transition from the harvest season into winter. Oh. So you end the harvesting, you enter winter. That's the moment. And this is what you'll see for many Halloween-like traditions is that they're in the fall. So why would there be a relationship between the fall and the other world and dead? The answer is perhaps obvious because it's in the fall that the world is dying. So what are those evil forces causing the world to die? And on that night, when there's an opening, what are those evil forces causing everything to die, and what will they do when they come out?
Wow. And you know what's so interesting? What is that sort of leads me to the thought of how we talk about Halloween spooky, boo, scary music playing. We all like to go see the gore. And I've always wondered that in association with what you're talking about in terms of, I don't know, all of our fascination with I guess, fear. Or I myself... because, purple, pink, and happiness illuminating from my face, everyone. I do not bode well with fear. I'm scared enough in life. I don't need it. It doesn't give me that jump. Watching a horror movie with candy, and that doesn't sound fun for me. So,
does it scare you?
It really does. Yeah. And I say to myself, why would I want more fear in my life? Am I right? Yeah. So what is your guys' are you guys drawn to the fear? What do you
I love horror movies, and horror TV shows and horror everything. Just binge watched all of Stranger Things.
Oh, I'm not done yet.
So yeah, I don't know because I don't particularly like being scared in real life. But I think there's something compelling about going to something that is scary and having to sort of wrestle with how you feel. I don't like the gore stuff though. So like I can do a little bit of blood and guts here and there.
Yeah.
But like, you know, movies like a Hostel is probably not something that I will go see.
Oof.
Because I just want you to like just scare me. Because I think there's something about horror that really just digs down into like who you are as a person.
Oof.
You know,
Oh,
because
man.
like what are you really scared about?
Oh God,
Can
my
I make
rent.
a connection?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Please.
So that's a psychological fear. So
Yeah, tell us if you have any
there's this cyclical, or the with the crops, with the big picture, with the seasons. There's this idea that the demons of the dead or something like this are in the other world. But in our own minds, we also repress the demons. And so Halloween is not just a moment when the demons of Underworld or something like this come up. It's that moment, it's that ritualized moment for our own inner demons to be confronted on an annual basis. Our own fear of death, our own relationship.
Oh my God.
So this isn't just the collective repression, it's also the individual repressions that we're fearing coming up in this moment.
I don't need to go to therapy anymore. I
Yeah,
just
that's
need to
interesting.
visit Will's cubicle. Tell us if we have any questions, because
Yeah, I'm trying to that's why, if you're wondering why I keep leaning forward.
I don't know how to work the
I'm
internet.
trying to read, the font on my phone is very small.
You want to
Can
pick
we
it
all
up
turn
and
like
look at it?
this?
Can
No,
you
I
see
think
it here?
I think we're
Can you
good.
go to the
No, I
feed
can't.
here? Tell us if we
It's
have any
only on the
questions.
phone.
It's just comments and stuff. And
Yes.
we have likes and hearts coming our way.
Yes, thank all of you guys for tuning in.
So Dr. Linn,
Yeah.
or should I say microcosmos?
Yes.
Are you drawn to fear? Are you into this
Right.
gore
I
stuff?
avoided answering that question, didn't
Yes,
I?
you did.
Yes, it did.
I think that I can watch horror movies now. I was one of the person that used to always not want to watch them, and I would be one of those people who said,
Yeah.
I don't want to corrupt my psyche with that imagery. I don't want it polluted. I don't want it in there because it'll give you nightmares. It'll give you all these things. And but I've recently learned of the Bon tradition in Tibet. One of the things that they do is it's called sky burials. So when somebody dies, they put you on this platform and they let the birds pick you apart and they let you just rot and die. And now the Bon people, the meditators, the ascetic monks, they actually imagine themselves this happening to their own bodies before they die. And they do all these things to imagine the worst stuff in the world happening to them. But why do they do it? They do it so that they can feel totally detached from it. It's a challenge to themselves to be able to witness and conceive of and imagine their own death.
Whoa.
Because it's an illusion. And so I like to think I might be finally moving towards a place in my relationship with horror film where I can experience it all as projections and
I see.
illusions that I can
Like a
challenge
full-
and test my own.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it's more involved
Interesting.
that way.
I just like being scared. I don't know. It's I feel like horror in particular is just something. It's so very personal
It
to
is.
everybody, because I
Oh,
know
yeah.
like in the case of me, it's like I don't do the gore. Like I have no desire to watch people be cut up and
Neither do I.
sliced and diced. But like I love something like Friday the 13th, which people are getting sliced and diced, but it's not like that's not the
blood
focus.
squirting. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, you know, we've been talking about death and demons and all of that, so it's like, you know, being scared of the things that are potentially out there is a fascinating thing, versus just being like, okay, somebody's just going to carve you up, you know.
Completely. And you know what I find fascinating, because, you know, we here
The
at
unknown.
Relativity School
Yes.
are, Terrence is a incredible writer, and I myself am just a genius in general. I'm always fascinated by really great horror writing and films when they're done well. When I'm finding my body have palpitations and I'm sweating and I'm having nightmares, I'm like, good on you, to the crew. I find it incredible, because as a writer, I'm a writer. I never go there. My system will not go to a place where I want to scare my audience. So I find that so fascinating. And in myth, which he has a PhD in, did I say that? How much is horror and gore? Like horror and gore, you know? Like, is that a predominant?
Well, I can say that what's happened. So yeah, like myth is normally expressive of all the stuff in the psyche, which includes all the gore. But in the same way that we like to keep our everyday life clean of gore, and our everyday year clean of Halloween, and we kind of repress it to these small festivals where we finally confront these things that are really big, but we repress. I think we do the same thing. I lost myself. What'd you ask?
What is horror and gore a really predominant theme?
Yes. So
in
we've
myth?
done the same thing to fairy tales and myth, where we've whitewashed, we've made fairy tales good for children.
Yes, we have.
And so I'll give you an example. The Little Red Riding Hood. Most people don't know just how gory that story
Right.
Oh, yeah,
really
yeah.
is. I think I was
crazy.
telling you guys. So one of the examples is Little Red Riding Hood gets to the grandma's house and yells. There's a holler from the other room from the wolf saying, get yourself some food, get yourself some wine. And it turns out that what she's eating and drinking is bread made from the bones of her grandmother. Wine that's effectively the blood of her grandmother. And the cat the cat calls her a slut in the middle of the story for eating her grandmother. And then she gets in bed. And one of the versions of the story, she wants to get out of bed to pee, and the wolf keeps saying, "Nope, just do it in bed." And then so there's perversions there.
Yeah.
And then there's another, and then in another version, I don't remember. I've mixed these up a little bit, where she actually escapes by using the intestines of the wolf as her rope that she uses to descend from the window. So very gory stuff. We tend to really bring it down, but the difference is that the audiences were originally adults for the imagination.
Right.
What happened in the Enlightenment is we saw anything imaginal as fantasy, as irrational, as dumb, as childish. And so what Tolkien points out is that we relegated the imagination to the nursery where it was rotting until he and C.S. Lewis literally themselves gave birth to the genre of fantasy and paved the way for things like Harry Potter and the adult wearing of unicorn outfits because Tolkien took it upon himself with the Inklings and others to revive the right of the imagination to be an adult organ.
That's
Thank you.
That's speaking of Harry Potter.
Yes.
Slytherin student.
Yes.
Right.
The best house.
Oh, are you a Slytherin?
Yes, absolutely.
No.
Absolutely. Yes.
I don't know what I am. I've never done it. Yes. Can you read? Are there any questions?
Yeah. Lots of people. Thank you guys for commenting. If you see me leaning forward, it's just the text on my phone screen.
We can't read it.
Is so tiny.
Help!
Anybody trying to call me Arrow?
No, but some people said you were smart. I saw that.
Everybody loves Dr. Linn. What else are they saying?
And
there's a lot of hearts, you guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of hearts, which is pretty cool.
There's a lot of heart. He should have a show. You mean me?
No.
I don't care what pronoun. I think you guys are talking about me.
He was. If you guys look on our Facebook page, we did do American Gods recaps. So
Those were great.
Yeah, you kind of did have a show.
And by the way, speaking of shows and Halloween,
Jen Bowen, we love you.
I highly encourage you.
A unicorn picture.
Elric, the head of the film program, is now for the Halloween movies that are featured on Hulu.
Yes.
His group, his podcast is reviewing Halloween films on Hulu and pointing Hulu users towards it. You can find him on the front banner on Hulu for this.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you, Dr. Linn.
Yeah.
Harry Potter is this little known story. And we have a Slytherin here. And
Yes.
so I think it's so interesting. We all know, you know Harry Potter, right?
I've been to the Wizarding World.
Oh my
Yes, so
God.
have I.
You're cooler than I am.
Uh-huh.
So of course we have this obsession with, not obsession, but of course the theme of death. Why do we think that, I mean, of course you know, I'm sure, but God, I think I read an interview with her, right, where it was like, yeah, that's what the book's about.
Death.
Right, and
Yeah.
it's this idea of, and this coming to terms with, and the reconciling of, and her own mother was, had passed before she wrote the book, and had inspired, and so in this, and the gore and all of this stuff, it's always what, it's the, I'm gonna get, that kind of thing, and what is that, and especially when it comes to myth and sort of, the hero's journey, we talk about a lot here at Relativity School, this thing of how our inner and outer, right, the dying of our inner, and this theme of death, and the whole, skeletons that pop out of how, when kids are trick-or-treating, and we get really used to that. So the theme of death, why is it so incredibly, I mean, obviously it's the thing, isn't it?
It's the thing. Camus said that the ultimate philosophical decision is suicide or not. Or there's same with Hamlet, to be or not to be. I think death is the ultimate unknown.
Yes.
And I think that the dark is the unknown.
It is.
And so there's this conflation of death and dark, not just because we bury ourselves in the earth or because it's earth underground, but the imagination wants to connect the unknown and death. And so I think a lot of stories are actually, many myths we've lost the fact that many of them are probably preparations for death.
Mm-hmm.
The Eleusinian mysteries, the myth of Persephone, that's a myth about how to go through death.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, this is a story of how to go through the land of the dead.
Mm-hmm.
The Egyptian Book of the Dead,
Mm-hmm.
the golden tablets of the Pythagoreans, these are in Hercules' labors, perhaps even, in the 12 hours of the underworld. So these stories may really be serving or responding to our fear of death, our anxiety of the unknown,
Yeah.
in the form of what's called a psychopomp. The psychopomp is someone who's been somewhere no one else has yet. They come back and lead the way. So this is Christ who died first, and now he leads all of our souls.
Mm.
This is why on All Hallows Eve, we pray to all the martyrs and all the priests, because these are the dead who have been there, who can now guide the souls of the recently deceased into their safety in the afterlife.
I love that.
Yeah, I was gonna say Halloween is very interesting because it's lots of religious aspects are tied up into it. In terms of you know what people celebrate and when. So like tomorrow would be like All Souls Day, and you know just very wonderful. So I guess I'm fascinated by the like linking the two. It reminds me sort of what they were doing on American Gods in a way. You know, like talking about how you have Easter in that case. Easter is a goddess Ostara, whose holiday is Easter, but by wrapping it in the birth of the resurrection of Christ, I should say, like she gained all this power, but then it wasn't really her. So like I'm fascinated by how many different things can be encompassed in like a single holiday.
I'm going to make a crazy prediction that in 500 or 1,000 years, we're going to have 4 holidays, and they're going to be the core anchoring holidays that we all kind of have and don't, So it's going to be the Easter holiday, the spring equinox, the fall equinox, the winter solstice, the summer solstice, which is kind of the most boring. But even the fireworks participates in that from July 4th. But ultimately, you see in Christmas, you see in Easter, you see in Halloween, this syncretism of all these global holidays because they all have a common essence around what that equinox is or what that solstice is. And so I think that it's exactly like what you saw with Easter and what we saw in American Gods. American Gods is just a great show that does good comparative mythology and shows its work. Yeah, I mean, I think Christmas is another example, and I hope we get to talk again on Christmas about how many holidays are overlaid on top of the winter solstice.
Yeah. It's such incredible storytelling that, gosh, if you think about it, you're right. Like, just aligns with this. It's season. We're about to go into winter. What are we shedding both innerly? Is that a word? It's a word now. Internally and externally.
Yeah.
As you said, the shedding of inner demons.
Leaves,
the colors,
the chaff of the grain.
Changing.
This is the time when you thresh the grain and you separate the seed from the chaff, just like the fallen leaves.
I love that. and so many people love fall, don't they?
Yes.
They say it's so beautiful, but certainly, and I lived on the East Coast for 15 years, what comes after, so interesting, because the leaves are changing, and then they're dead. They're dead.
Yeah.
We are about to go into
this lifeless phase.
The lifeless phase.
And the darkest time of the year.
So per storytelling, we say we change, we fall, we die, and
exactly.
all of a sudden...
Yeah. The word fall is really interesting, right? The fall and the fall.
There we go.
Yes.
And, this literally we're falling from the brightest, warmest days to the darkest, coldest, most lifeless days. Literally the ripe fruit is falling. Literally the ripe grain is falling. This is the time of, falling.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
There's something that I want to tie into that, like what I find like really interesting that we've talked about sort of fairy tales and we've talked about death and in the concepts of why our fairy tales now are very like totally different. So like the Disneyfication of these different things, and so like anytime I think about Halloween, I think about like a grim fairy tale. It's like like somebody's dying, somebody's getting left at the altar, like all of these like really dark things, but using sort of this fantastical thing. So it's like we can go trick-or-treating as Michael Myers, right, from these movies, but then it's like the movie is about like a deranged serial killer, and so like I'm fascinated by I guess maybe the separation between like that and how we.
Why do we dress like what we're afraid of?
Yeah.
Well, two things
Ooh.
on that. One is that actually the costumes, in one version of the tradition is that you're dressing up like the demons so that you blend in, so they don't single you out, so they don't go.
Ah, okay.
The other is that counter curses are often actually in the form of the original curse. So the evil eye and the counter curse to the evil eye are mimetic with one another.
Okay.
It's kind of like if you want PTSD, how do you actually get over the PTSD? A repeated exposure to less intense examples of the same trauma. You want to expose yourself to the same thing which traumatized you. And so in some ways wearing the costume is overcoming a fear as well. I guess we could probably unpack this 1,000 ways. This is really interesting.
There's also the celebration of the costume itself.
Yeah.
I mean, kids love it, of course. I mean, it's like a
Great point.
But adults are
just to be costumed.
Yeah, there's like, and I've always, I mean, obviously you can tell this is not the most expensive thing on the block. You know what I mean, everyone? Pull off. This unicorn's a little sad. But my point of saying that is people, the adult reception, once we go through adolescence and then, it's sort of then, remember like you're a teenager, you're like, what do I do on Halloween now, right? You're like a little too old to trick or treat. And our celebration, though, besides just sort of the funny prototype of the Halloween party, right? We really do get into it, and when we see like a brilliant idea, we have just such joy. We're like, no way!
Yeah.
And I wonder, this sort of communal, right?
All right, let me ask you this. Do you think maybe we haven't just repressed the things we're afraid of? Maybe our culture has in some ways also repressed imagination itself.
Oh.
And so
bingo!
In Halloween, it's not just this moment of the outpouring of the things we repress that are scary.
Yeah.
It's also all that freedom and creativity
So
we
That's
keep
true.
up.
That's true.
So true. Playfulness. If anybody has any, we didn't forget about you. Hi, guys.
Yes.
Can you see anything, Terrence?
I
see a new show called The Crew. Thanks, Teddy's Wells, Hawaii.
This is like.
I love it. Hawaii.
Hashtag
Oh my
ghost
God.
stories.
Everybody
yes.
in Hawaii likes that.
If
anybody has any questions we only have a couple minutes
We have
left.
like 2 minutes.
We have 2 minutes for Dr. Linn. He's brilliant.
Oh my God, I think
Ask about myth or anything, or
well,
just
he's still
Oh, he's still looking at his notes. Yes.
see-
Any last things
I
about
got a good one.
All Hallows
here.
Eve?
All right.
Dr. Linn.
So,
Here we go.
So, there was a Dionysian ritual where a woman would swing over the wine when they first opened the wine after it sat for a long time. And then this was also, before it was wine, it would have been mead. And before it was in a vessel, it would have been in a bear skin. And so right when the bearskin finally ferments over, it bursts the bearskin because it's finally finished going. And this is those spirits from below coming out. And so this is the same thing with wine. When wine finally ferments and is done, so the opening of the jar is also this moment when you've opened the veil, the portal to the other world. And so this is why it's also associated with Pandora's jar. And the opening of Pandora's jar is very much a Halloween moment. All the stuff down there, it's open for a second, and all comes out.
It
and
pops
so
out.
There may have actually been a relationship between Pandora's jar, these wine jars that the women swung over in open skirts, to be impreg fumes, all those things, and then later, it seems that these may also have been the same vessels used as urns.
Oh wow!
So literally the demons from the underworld, the spirit energy of the wine of the honey mead. It's all about the spirit of the other world having this moment of being able to come up. And so there's just another good example, another good ritual of that.
I feel like you could dissect it for days.
Yes.
You really could this season. The fervor of it. Well, oh my gosh, you guys! I hate that we have to go, but we have to go eat candy. And I have to prance around in my awkward unicorn.
Are you a diabetic horse?
Yes. yes. Sadly I am. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to our very first live Rel School chat with our illustrious Dr. Linn. Thank you, Dr. Linn.
Oh, thanks, guys, for having me.
Oh, look at us. We're flanking his face.
Great
It's like a
talking.
very good. And thank you to Terrence, our incredible social media coordinator, and thank you to me for just being alive.
Thanks.
I mean, look at this. Look at
Yes.
this face. Thanks, you guys. We'll come at you soon with another one of these. More surprise Rel guests.
Yes. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Happy Halloween.
And
Is that an hour?
yes.
Yeah.
Wow.